Hello there, I'm Mr. D and welcome to Tool of the Day. Today we're going to start off with a real simple one you probably are familiar with, the tape measure. If you've got one tool at home, it's probably this one because it's got an endless list of uses. You find yourself reaching for this thing all of the time just to check how big a space is. If you're buying new furniture or if you're in the workshop constantly building things, this is going to be the one thing that's clipped to your side the whole time. You might think you know your way around this thing already, but it does have some secrets that I'm going to get into, so let's do it. The tape measure is made out of spring steel. It has the U-shaped blade on it, which helps it stay rigid so you can extend it out to things that you can't reach. And it stops it from being kind of disappointing and sad and losing its shape like this one. This is a 100-foot tape measure for measuring things usually outdoors. I've seen these up to 300 feet. Beyond that, we have different tools for measuring distance. But for around the home and around the workshop, we usually have one around this size, which can be anywhere from about 12 feet to 35 feet in length. One of the key features about the tape measure is the way that the markings on the blade are. To begin, the blade's going to be broken up just into inches. The black numbers here are telling you the number of inches. But once we get past 1 foot, the black numbers continue on the bottom, measuring number of inches. The red numbers on top start over again at 1. So depending on whether you're measuring in inches or feet into inches, you can read one side of the blade or you can read the other. So, 14 inches is the same thing as 1 foot 2 inches, and you don't have to do any mental math to try to figure that out. Along the way, you do see a couple of noticeable differences here, like the number 16 on this one is bright red. And then when we get out to 32, that one's bright red also. And it turns out every increment of 16 inches is marked differently on the tape measure. The reason for that is for people who are doing wall framing for construction. If you are trying to measure out the distance between wall studs or the distance between floor joists or the distance between rafters, the standard for that in the United States is 16 inches from one to the next. So without having to strain to find where those marks are, you can look for the big bright red numbers and they'll tell you right away where 16 inches falls. The reason that 16 inches is used is because when you're working with a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of plywood or drywall, you want to be able to reach the end of that sheet and have a stud there to fasten the end of the sheet to. You don't want the end of the sheet just unsupported out in the air. So this 16-inch spacing allows for 7 studs starting at one end of the sheet and working your way all the way down to the other and ending exactly at the end of the sheet. It's sometimes common to also see 24-inch stud spacing, which spaces them out a little bit further to save money. But of course, the drawback to this is you end up with a wall that is not as strong because you have fewer structural pieces inside. You can get away with doing 5 wall studs in a 8-foot sheet if you use 24-inch spacing. Now, another weird thing that you might find on the tape measure is this mark at 19.2 inches. Kind of strange. 19.2 inches is the spacing we would use if we wanted to split the difference between 16 and 24-inch spacing. So if you're using 19.2-inch stud spacing, you can get away with using 6 studs down the length of a single sheet, sort of halfway between the cheaper option of 24-inch centers and the stronger option of 16-inch centers. Why would somebody do this? I don't know. Inside the tape measure is a coil spring that returns the blade to you when you're finished using it, so you don't have to reel the thing back in yourself. And if you need it to stay out, it has the thumb lock to keep it in place. Something that people don't always notice about the tape measure is at the very end, the little hook normally should wiggle a little bit. And sometimes people see this and think that the thing's broken or that it's low quality. It's supposed to wiggle like that. And the reason that it wiggles that much is because sometimes you are hooking that tape around something and pulling to take a measurement. And other times you're pushing the tape up against something and pulling the tape out to take a measurement. And in one situation, this clip is pulled out, and in the other situation, it's pushed in. The distance that it can wiggle is the same as its own thickness, the thickness of this metal clip. So what it's basically doing is accounting for the thickness of that metal that is part of the measurement here, but not part of the measurement here. So that tiny little bit of thickness is enough to mess you up on certain applications. So the tape measure jiggles a little bit on the end to account for that. Well, this has been Tool of the Day. Hopefully you learned something new. Thanks for watching.